So if you're like me and you're currently on DSLR and wondering if you should switch over to mirrorless, hopefully this video I can clear some of those things up based on my personal experience. So let's get into this video right now. So a little bit of a backstory, I'm a photographer and a videographer. I do all types of content from weddings to real estate to portraits. And for me, I've always only had one camera. I want one body that can pretty much do everything that I need it to do. I'm honestly pretty much of a minimalist, especially when it comes to camera gear and gear in general. I don't want to bring a whole ton of gear, and I want to just basically have one good body, and one or a couple lenses is the way to go. So now that I've had the R6 for a couple of weeks, I'm kind of questioning if I should jump from my Canon 5D Mark IV to the R6. So now let me break down a couple of points and some key differences to hopefully make this decision. So first off, one of the main and the biggest differences between DSLR and mirrorless is going to be the lack of a mirror in a mirrorless camera. So here I have the Canon R6 with a 24-7 EF lens with the adapter, which works great. If we take this off, here is the sensor for the camera. Basically, there is no mirror. So now the first big thing of not having a mirror in this camera is the size difference. Obviously, you can tell that this is not a very big camera. This is no size of a 1DX3 or like my 5D Mark IV, but I think it's a good size. It's kind of like right in the middle between like a Sony camera, this, and then, you know, heavier DSLRs. And so I think this is a really good size. It fits in the hand pretty well. Also, I really like that this little shutter comes down and covers the sensor so it's not exposed. That's a really good point because otherwise dust can get in there and all that. Still shouldn't have it open, but. Now here's one of the biggest things I find that's so useful of having the electronic viewfinder versus a mirror. On my 5D Mark IV, basically it utilizes what's called phase detect autofocus. In other words, it's a contrast-based autofocus, and when you look through the viewfinder, all you have is like little points to select on. So that's what it's going to base your autofocus on. It's usually really accurate, especially using something like this 24-70. But when I start to use other lenses like the Sigma Arts, for example, is if I look through the viewfinder, half of the time it would miss focus. And so basically the workaround I found is shooting through live view. And the reason that I do that is because if I use live view on my 5D Mark IV, it's utilizing Canon's dual pixel autofocus, which is incredibly accurate and reliable. So my main point being that on the R6 and their mirrorless cameras, you get dual pixel autofocus and all the same features from the LCD screen in the viewfinder. So now all my Sigma Art lenses are like 100% accurate every single time I use this camera. And I'm not just speculating that. Any shoot that I've done with this camera has been tack sharp, never missed focus. Basically, wherever it says autofocus is, whether it's on someone's eye, someone's face, on a point, that's where it will be. It will never miss, at least for me. I didn't have any miss issues. So that is one big giant perk that I really consider because, you know, that it just makes my glass even more better and accurate. So my Canon 5D Mark IV is a phenomenal camera. Now, when it comes to the video department, it's not bad, you know. It does 1080p, 60, 30, and 24. It does have 4K, but they put like a really weird codec and the file sizes are massive. On the R6, you get 4K 60, 4K 30, 24. Then you get 1080p 120, 60, 30, 24. And I might add that 4K is not cropped, so you get pretty much full frame in that. Aside from just face detection, you get eye autofocus, but it works so much better because one of the things I notice on my 5D Mark IV is if I have face detect on and my subject isn't, you know, relatively close to the camera, it's not going to pick up the face, unfortunately. And so using this in along with the other mirrorless cameras like the EOS R, you get really far distance. Like your subject can be, you know, pretty small in the frame and it's going to pick up their eye or their face, which is fantastic. Now, along with those great video features, one of the other most important things that I love about this camera and practically every mirrorless camera is a flip screen. This is something that I wish every camera across the board had. I wish my 60 had this. I wish my 5D Mark IV had this. Having a flip screen is just so versatile. It's not just like, oh, if you're a vlogger, you need a flip screen. That's the whole point about them. That is not it at all, even though it's a huge help because vlogging on my camera is like so difficult. Having a flip screen enables you to get really high angles, low angles. When your camera's on a gimbal and you're doing like really weird, cool shots, it makes it so much easier when you actually can see what you're filming versus just guessing like I have to do on my camera. The last thing I want to touch on is the shooting experience, because that's a really important factor. A camera can be really incredible, have all these amazing specs, but if you're not happy with it, or if you don't like how it's laid out or the functionality of how it actually is in the field, it's not going to really matter. And I'm happy to say that using the R6, I was really happy with the shooting experience. When it came to shooting photos, videos, and all the features that they've packed in here, and along with their other mirrorless camera like the EOS R, it just makes the shooting experience more versatile, is the best way I can put it. I feel like you don't have to focus so much on, the little details of things like questioning whether your focus is perfect or if your photo is gonna be, blurry, because the IBIS in the R6 is really awesome. Up here, I'll also link my review of the R6. But yeah, I'm definitely contemplating if I'm gonna be switching to the R6 or the R5 or even the C70 that's come out. I feel like that's a mirrorless cinema camera, and I think it's just gonna help me produce better content, because it's not just about having the best camera. It's more about if it's actually gonna help you become a better creator, because at the end of the day, these are just tools to tell a story. So should you switch to mirrorless? I think the answer is yes. I think that is my answer. I think I'm gonna be switching to one of these mirrorless cameras here pretty soon. Just gonna do a little bit more of my homework, really wanna test out the other cameras that have come out recently and make my decision from there.